Man, listen, I seen the whole little situation going on. First off, you gotta understand where King coming from. That's his mama, man. You can't be out here playing with a man mama and think it's just gonna be rappers rapping. King of YN, he got that fire in it, and he let it be known he ain't going for none of that. He was on that live hollering, and not going.
The ongoing friction between T.I. and 50 Cent appears to be reigniting, and this time the atmosphere feels noticeably heavier than before. What's unfolding doesn't feel like just another passing headline in hip-hop. Instead, it resembles the revival of a rivalry rooted in pride, competition, and years of unresolved tension. Supporters across social media have begun noticing subtle signals from both sides, suggesting that something deeper may be happening behind the scenes. The tone has sharpened, the statements feel more deliberate, and the public energy between them is difficult to ignore. At this stage, it's clearly about more than music. It touches legacy, influence, and status within hip-hop culture. This conflict didn't emerge overnight. Longtime followers of the culture understand that there has always been a quiet undercurrent between these two camps. However, things recently escalated when King Harris addressed 50 Cent during a live stream. He reportedly spoke candidly, referencing past issues involving his family, particularly his mother, Tamika "Tiny" Harris. Viewers quickly picked up on the tone, interpreting the remarks as personal rather than promotional. Clips circulated rapidly across platforms, and many felt the emotions behind his words were genuine. That authenticity, whether strategic or not, added a new layer of intensity to an already complicated dynamic. The situation escalated further when 50 Cent later shared posts involving Tiny. Many interpreted these posts as trolling, a familiar tactic associated with his online persona. Given his long-standing reputation for provocative humor and calculated digital engagement, some weren't surprised. In fact, for many observers, this behavior aligned perfectly with how he has historically operated in public disputes. However, just because something is expected doesn't mean it's accepted, and this is where the tone of the conversation began to shift. Things intensified again when King Harris returned to Instagram Live and strongly defended his mother. This time, his tone was reportedly more forceful than before, leaving little room for interpretation. He made it clear that he viewed 50 Cent's posts as disrespectful toward his family. For many fans, this marked a turning point. What once seemed like professional tension between two established figures now appeared to cross into personal territory. That shift changed how audiences perceived the entire situation. Eventually, Boosie Badass weighed in, offering his perspective on the situation. He suggested that King may not have approached the situation in the most strategic way, emphasizing the importance of understanding who you're dealing with, particularly someone with 50 Cent's level of influence and business acumen. Boosie also speculated that external influences might have shaped King's reaction, though he did not provide concrete evidence to support that claim. His commentary added yet another dimension to the unfolding narrative, expanding the discussion beyond the immediate conflict. Online, the debate quickly grew larger than the individuals directly involved. Fans began discussing broader themes like loyalty, respect, ego, and hierarchy within the music industry. While many acknowledge 50 Cent's achievements as both an artist and entrepreneur, others argue that respect must go both ways, especially when family members are brought into public conversations. In hip-hop culture, competition and rivalry are expected. Diss tracks, lyrical jabs, and even personal critiques are part of the tradition. However, bringing someone's mother into the equation is widely viewed as crossing a significant line. Observers have pointed out that disputes between established artists are often framed as professional competition shaped by history. But once relatives become part of the narrative, the emotional stakes increase dramatically. What was once perceived as T.I. versus 50 Cent has now evolved into something involving family pride and social media amplification. Every post, every live stream, and every subtle message is now subject to intense scrutiny. At the center of the discussion is a key question. Did King Harris overstep by responding publicly, or was he simply acting out of principle to defend his family? Opinions remain sharply divided. Some argue that 50 Cent was operating within his usual trolling style, fully aware of the reactions he might provoke. Others believe that certain boundaries, particularly those involving family, carry deeper cultural weight and shouldn't be tested, regardless of intent. As more clips and commentary continue to spread across blogs, forums, and social media platforms, Boosie's reaction has remained a focal point of discussion. Some people agree with his emphasis on experience and strategy, suggesting that younger voices should tread carefully in long-standing feuds. Others feel his perspective overlooks the emotional reality of defending family honor. This divide highlights a broader tension between calculated thinking and raw authenticity. Many observers have also noted that Boosie Badass has never been shy about voicing strong opinions, which made his critique particularly noteworthy. Some users interpreted his comments not as taking sides, but as a caution against reacting emotionally in a digital environment where everything is permanent. Once something is said online, it spreads instantly and becomes part of the public record. There's no real way to take it back, only to manage the fallout. Others, however, viewed his stance differently. In their eyes, his response reflected a defensive posture from hip-hop's veteran generation. Artists like 50 Cent built their reputations through calculated moves, media awareness, and strategic timing. From that perspective, jumping into a heated exchange without a long-term strategy could have serious consequences. This argument sparked a wider conversation about generational differences in how conflicts are handled. That generational divide is hard to ignore. Older fans often emphasize resolving disputes through music or private dialogue, maintaining a level of control over the narrative. Younger voices, on the other hand, are more inclined to address issues immediately through live streams and direct posts. Social media has removed the delay that once existed, allowing reactions to unfold in real time with massive audiences watching. That immediacy amplifies emotions and raises the stakes significantly. The situation became even more intense when King made particularly harsh remarks during another live session, including comments involving deceased parents. Many people felt this crossed into deeply sensitive territory. Critics described those remarks as dark and difficult to recover from, arguing that once such a line is crossed, reconciliation becomes far more complicated. At that point, the issue had clearly expanded beyond a single exchange. It had become something heavier. Now the situation represents a layered conversation involving hierarchy, respect, generational mindset, media strategy, and personal boundaries. As reactions continue to pour in, longtime hip-hop followers have begun revisiting old interviews and past interactions, suggesting that tensions between major figures rarely disappear completely. Instead, they fade into the background before resurfacing when conditions allow. Engagement metrics tell their own story. Posts related to the conflict have drawn massive attention across platforms, reinforcing how invested audiences have become. King himself has suggested that his family operates on a different level of respect, implying that not everyone can compete in their lane. Still, many observers caution that invoking deceased parents in public disputes is a line with lasting consequences, one that can shape public perception long after the moment has passed. Experts in digital culture often point out that in today's attention economy, even subtle actions can trigger massive reactions. Every caption, emoji, pause, or expression during a live stream is analyzed in detail. What might once have been a niche disagreement has now transformed into a full-scale cultural moment, with fans passionately choosing sides. This transformation is driven not just by the individuals involved, but by the ecosystem that amplifies their actions. Another major factor is how quickly narratives take shape online. Within hours, short clips were edited, reposted, and paired with bold captions that influenced how audiences interpreted events. Some argue that these brief highlights strip away essential context, while others insist that tone alone can reveal intent. Content creators have gone as far as analyzing body language, timing, and wording, suggesting that when someone with 50 Cent's media instincts posts something, it's rarely accidental. Meanwhile, King's defenders maintain that not every response needs to resemble a calculated chess move. They argue that emotional reactions are human and, in some cases, necessary. This tension between strategy and sincerity has become one of the most discussed aspects of the entire situation. It's not just about what was said, it's about why it was said and how it was delivered. Brand identity also plays a significant role in shaping public perception. 50 Cent is widely recognized for his sharp humor, calculated provocations, and ability to dominate online conversations. In contrast, T.I. has built his image around principles, respect, and standing firm on personal values. When those contrasting identities collide, the result is almost guaranteed to create tension. It becomes more than a disagreement. It turns into a clash of philosophies. Marketing analysts have pointed out that controversy often fuels engagement, and engagement sustains relevance. That doesn't necessarily mean every action is part of a deliberate strategy, but high-profile figures understand how visibility works. At the same time, King's supporters argue that his reaction appeared protective rather than promotional. This split interpretation, strategy versus sincerity, continues to keep the debate alive. Some observers emphasize the importance of hierarchy and experience, suggesting that navigating public disputes requires patience and long-term thinking. Others push back against that idea, arguing that respect shouldn't be determined by status or years in the industry. This ongoing debate reflects a deeper question about what matters more: calculated positioning or immediate authenticity. Social media timelines have effectively become public debate stages, with opinions shifting rapidly as new information emerges. What makes this moment particularly compelling is the number of layers involved: reputation, legacy, generational tension, media strategy, and personal boundaries are all colliding at once. Public sympathy can swing in either direction within hours, depending on the next post or reaction. Industry insiders are now quietly observing how both sides choose to proceed. In situations like this, silence can be just as powerful as a direct response. Choosing not to engage can shift the narrative just as much as continuing the exchange. Whether the conflict escalates further or gradually fades, one thing is clear: the culture is paying close attention. The level of scrutiny surrounding this situation highlights just how invested the audience has become. Every detail is examined as though it carries hidden meaning. Some fans are calling for the matter to be resolved privately, arguing that not every disagreement needs to unfold in public. Others maintain that open rivalry is part of hip-hop's competitive DNA and reflects the spirit that shaped the culture in the first place. That clash of viewpoints keeps the conversation intense. At this point, the issue represents more than a simple dispute. It serves as an example of how legacy, pride, and modern media dynamics can collide in unpredictable ways. With so many eyes watching, any next step could quickly reshape the narrative. The spotlight is brighter than ever, and the next move, whether it's silence, reconciliation, or escalation, could shift everything. Fans remain divided. Some see seasoned strategists who understand exactly how to command attention. Others view the situation as a matter of personal boundaries and defending family honor. The central question still lingers: was this deliberate trolling, an emotional reaction, or a combination of both? At this point, there's no clear answer. What is certain, however, is that the story is still unfolding. Reputations, relationships, and public perception are all on the line. Every caption, live stream, or subtle message moving forward will carry weight, and observers will be watching closely to see what happens next.